Hey, good afternoon, guys. It's Simon with ToughTrader.com, and wow, what a trading day! Wow, I was just like, that was just impressive. That's all I can say. The move up was solid. It was consistent. There's not a seller in sight, and that's exciting to me. And it's exciting because it means that A, we're going to get some good two-sided markets coming up. B, there'll be plenty of opportunity going forward. We're in the early stages of a breakout, and this should break out into some good two-sided trading, even if it's not this week, sometime in the coming week. So the critical thing today was, how did we manage today? How do we figure out? So there's a couple of things you want to figure out on a day like today, right? Number one, how do you not get run over on the upside? How do you not get run over on the downside, right? How do you know whether to go long or short? And what do those setups look like? Those are key questions we ask every day. So let's go back and start the day off and how we were looking at the day coming in, how the day started off, and hopefully you didn't lose any money shorting today, and hopefully you got long and stayed long all day long. I did not trade today. I did not trade today as well as I wanted to, but I learned a lot. I walked out profitably. All the members in the room walked out profitably. And that's what matters to me, is to take the education that we are gaining from the market and that we're learning in the room and converting that to P&L at the bottom line as quickly as possible. Not just P&L, but P&L that you can put into the account and hold in the account, right? Really, really, really important. And this entire day actually got set up from yesterday. So let's get started really quickly. I have to post this up. Past performance is not indicative of future results. This is for educational purposes only. I'm sharing my trade plan with you. You can lose a lot of money trading derivatives. There's substantial risk. Know what you are doing before jumping in to the water. And if you have any questions for me or you'd like to email me, you can email me at tradertough@gmail.com. And I'm more than happy to respond and answer questions. And for anyone who would like a pass into the room for 5 days, you're welcome to request that there as well. And I'm happy to invite you in and see what we do. So let's get started. It all starts with the basis for our trading is off the volume profile. So and the TPO profile. So let's go take a quick look at what we had coming into the day. I believe this is the chart I'm working off of. Nope, that's NQ. Let's jump right back. And there's ES. Okay. So number one, we have been bullish for a number of days now. So this push to the upside has come as no surprise, right? So this is just, there's nothing fancy about this. This is technical analysis 101. I'm going to spread this out. So the number one thing we noted coming into the day, we have been one-timing to the upside since the 23rd. What does that mean and why is it important? What that means is that we've had an inability since the 23rd to trade below the prior day's low. It's an indication of momentum. Doesn't mean we go up automatically. Doesn't mean we can't trade sideways. Doesn't even mean we can't go down. Just means that when you get instances of where the market has an inability to trade below prior day's low, it's a sign of strength, a lack of willing sellers in the market, right? And it tells you to queue up and look for long side trades, right? So then you go, okay, well, even with that, Simon, how could have I figured out today? So there's a couple of things that we would have done and that we did do coming into the morning. So let's stretch it out and get a little more specific. So the first thing that you will see when you look, and I'm going to steal this over here really quick, and this is ES, and this was what our ES support resistance chart looked like. I'm going to pop this up on the screen really quick. There we go. So let me just take it easy. This is what it looked like coming into the day. And basically what you had is prior day's high, prior day's low, what's called a value area high, value area low. You don't have to worry too much about that. And the white zone and the yellow zones are the key support resistance lines in the chart. So two things you'll notice almost immediately in what I posted to members is that there are no yellow or white zones above. There is a clear track to the upside, and there's no resistance because we're at, guess what? New highs, guys. Calling for highs or calling for tops when we are pushing up like this in a strong fashion is, in my opinion, it's crazy. It's unwarranted. There may be exhaustion areas on top, and you'll see that I believe, I guess I erased it earlier today, but I had said there's no resistance above 2904. There just simply isn't. And if you'll look on this white zone this morning, what you'll see is we dip back in. Well, how did I figure that out? Well, let's go and look. If you look at the profile chart, and this is, so the chart on the right is a, let's get rid of that. How about this? There we go. If you look, this chart right here is a volume profile. This chart is a TPO profile. This goes by contracts traded. This goes by time traded at location. So I want to say that again. That goes by time traded at location. Okay, so if you look, the first thing when I come in, and I outline this every day, this is part of my basic formula. It doesn't tell me how to trade, but it sets me up mentally for what to look for. Okay, number one, in order to be short, okay, in order to be truly short and for us to go down, we have to demonstrate that we have an ability to trade below 28.94 and a quarter today. If we don't trade below 28.94 and a quarter, that means there was no supply that was willing to be offered that pushed us down low enough to even test it, much less break it. Number one sign into the columns, buyers are in control. Number two, we have value area high and value area low. What's the next thing I'm looking for since I already know it's bullish? I want to see if there's a consolidation underneath value area low is the first hint, right, that we might trade to the downside, right? I'm adding up evidence to give me a balanced view of what the other side of the trade looks like, right? So next, I come up and I want to see, can we trade below value area low, and then can we get below the TPO volume point of control and the TPO point of control and the volume point of control. So this just sets up my day, right? When I look at it, number one, I know there's no resistance above 2904.50. Number two thing I know is I've got to get below 2903/4. I got to get past the volume point of control, and to really roll down, I've got to break these two, which you can see we didn't even get close to, right? Okay, so that's the first setup of my day, right? So then I switch charts. I'm off of this. I understand that if we don't move down, there's no resistance above, that I'm looking for longs. My day is much, much easier. Now, the next thing that I'm using are deltas, and I'm not going to redraw this because this was all drawn from what we had the prior day. And what we were working off of overnight on ES was this little bar that was printed right here at the end of the day. You can see that we opened up in early Asia. I don't even think we actually backside tested this in Asia. I think, let me see this really quick. Asia's over here at 1700. That's 1700, and we got clear away and never backside tested it. But here's the cool thing. That was your target for a long area overnight. And there was a couple things. This is highlighted in orange, which tells me there was an enormous amount of volume that went off there relative to the bars around it. It was the biggest delta in the area. That's part of learning how to read order flow, right? And once you know that, the first thing that we knew today is we had to get below this guy in order to be short. And then you can see in the pre-market, we test right into this guy. We have an inability to trade underneath, right? And notice that we rotate right back up. We then open, right? When we open at 8:30, I now have two key markers. I have this guy over here, and then immediately you'll see that I put a line over this right here. I needed to get below and hold below this guy, as he was my biggest delta of the day. And that sets the tone, right? So notice, it wasn't enough just to get underneath this. I still had to beat this guy. And you'll see during the US session that even though we got underneath, we simply backside tested. And guys in the room, this is really helpful, right? When you're making your notes to improve for the future, right? How do we treat when we get the biggest delta of the day versus the biggest delta from the prior day? Well, we know, give weighting to the bigger delta, right? The backside test, just getting underneath here, notice that we never got a point of control with a red negative bar closing underneath this 2191. All they did is very quickly come in, test this guy, never closed underneath. And if you look on the second break right over here, I have an arrow pointed to it. You'll see that break. And so this is very interesting. So let me go through here. If you'll notice, it really kind of lulled people to sleep. And this is, so I'm going to pause for a second and explain this because it's an important part of the concept, right? This looks like, if you break the trading out, if you look, this is 8:30. This is 9:18 in the morning. 45 minutes of basically, I know it was a 4-point range, but really it was just sitting there in a 2-point range doing nothing, right? So let me pause there for a second, okay? When you come back to the other chart that's sitting over here, the one that I post to members, and hopefully I have it. Here we go. Okay, when you come back to this chart, the one that's posted to members, right? The purple lines are value. You see they're marked VAH and VAL, and then there's the zone itself, right? So the first thing I know is I have to make it underneath all of this to push lower. And even though we were in a tight range, consolidating above value area high usually leads to trades that push to the upside. Exactly, guys. So this is what I talk about every morning in the room. Not kind of like this, exactly like this, right? So very, very important that you understand that that is what we are, that this made perfect sense, right? Now, here's where our trading plan kind of got in the way of us having a monster day. We clearly break to a new high here. If you look on the 1735, and what we wanted was when we clearly broke to a new high was a backside test of that bar right there, and we just didn't get it. So specifically addressing guys in the room, that's not a big deal. As you know, if you've been in my room on a daily basis, we get that trade a lot, right? We just didn't get it today. It's unfortunate. It would have been a 2.5 point risk for a 10 to 14 point reward. Okay. This goes back to staying to your process, understanding your process, and working your process day after day after day. It's monotonous. It's boring. It's not glamorous, but it is profitable, right? So if you'll look, we then break up. Notice I have an arrow on this bar right here. What does that tell me? Two things. First of all, that tells me if I can get a backside test of that bar, notice that the algo has it outlined in orange, highlighting it. There's a ton of volume in that bar. If I can get a backside test of that, I would love to get long off of that. You'll notice we don't get the backside test off the biggest bar. Okay, is that a problem for your trade plan? Nope. It's just one of those days where we went straight up. And unless your trade plan calls for you to go long the moment we close above, which in the room, most of the guys prefer a 2 to 2.5 point stop, right? So if you can add to the risk on your trade comfortably, great. Take it up there. It's a high odds win rate. Myself, I prefer the backside test. I can leverage up harder on it, and I have a very high win rate. Didn't get it, right? Moving on, you'll notice we come up to the next biggest delta of the day. Why is this important? Because this set up our trade in the afternoon. Okay, so what you're going to see here on the Slack channel, which our members are part of, is, okay, right here. I am somewhere here. Okay, I was gone. I was waiting. I know okay, here we go. 12:53 p.m. Getting long 29.1150. Stop 29.09. 2.5 points worth of risk. That was my trade. I thought that was a great risk reward. That trade ended up being worth, since the high of the day was 29.1550, that trade ended up being worth about 4.5 points. Actually, let me see where we ended up. I'm not even sure if that's correct. Is that correct? A little bit more. It looks like we stretched all the way up to 29.16. So that trade ended up being worth about 5 points, right? However, you'll also see that I laid out my targets because we were already extended. This is multiple days up, and I just couldn't tell how strong we were going to run at the end of the day. And so there's multiple ways of handling it. So you'll see I highlighted this, and watch as we come across towards 12 o'clock. Notice that no one in the room is getting anxious. No one's looking for shorts. We know we're looking for pullbacks, and we don't even let the slight pullbacks that we miss get us. So notice I draw an arrow right there where we're looking for long, and anyone who wanted to get filled there should have been able to get filled there without an issue. And I exited, I got to tell you, 29.13. And why did I do that? So you see how I have this bar highlighted right here, this 46.51 against this 52.08. So I'm going to go slow so everyone can see this. These two bars, when the market's moving faster, tend to get spread out more. They all got stacked on top of each other. So this bar was going to create resistance for me. This bar was creating support. I wanted the long. I thought the first time we tested this bar, We go long. I had to respect the resistance. And then I had a choice to make on my trading. I could either scale out, right? And anyone could have scaled out and moved my stop to break even. Notice that we never tagged it again, or just come out completely out of the trade. I respect the delta when it's that big. And I took the entire trade off and less than my normal target. I let everyone know ahead of time that was less than my normal target. Normally, we don't have that bar standing in our way, and I would have been able to get a bigger extension. It just didn't work out that way today, but it's okay. It's positive P&L. We had almost 1 tick of heat, 1 or maybe 2 ticks of heat on the bid, and we got 1.5. That's a great risk reward there, right? And then notice that from that location, we pushed, all the way up to 29.17. So I left a good chunk of the change on the table. Really, what caused me the most damage today, not damage, but disappointing, was not being able to get this guy or this guy backside tested. Would have been really nice to get a continuation up, and it just did not happen. Also, if you're not following cumulative delta, guys, we crossed cumulative delta line right here at 9:41 a.m. over 20K, and you just got to be nuts to want to short a market like that. These are easy things you can do if you're struggling to pick up your consistency in your trading, to know even if you're not getting the long or you can't hook up the long side trade, to know to ignore the short side of the trade. The market's mega strong. When you see this right here, the market is super, super, super strong. Don't let it run you over. Focus, focus, focus on what your plan is. And here's the deal. How do you make a lot of money trading? You have a niche trading methodology that you understand inside and out. You know exactly what you're looking for intraday, and you're not guessing, and you know where your entry, your exit, your stop is. And that's exactly what we did right there at 29.1150. We knew the buyers were on our side. We got this. Looking back, do I wish I held it all the way up to 29.17? Yeah, I kind of, your rearview mirror is always perfect. Had we not had this delta in the way, I would have actually loved to have a smaller delta here and targeted this delta for the upside move. Again, I just wasn't looking for any shorts in this area. It just didn't make any sense. And buyers are in total control. So that being said, right, let's leave everyone with a little bit of a plan for tomorrow, right? So if you look at tomorrow, right, and you look at tonight, if you trade Asia or Europe, there's a couple things you can do to help yourself out. I'm not going to give you the whole trade plan, but I'll outline a little bit of it for you right here, right now. Number one, we had a good high on the day right there. That's a good high. Could end up serving as at least short-term resistance, okay? Number one, in order for me to think that we are, let me erase all these lines and line this out for you. I teach people how to do this from a charting perspective. It's the basics of becoming a good trader. You have to understand what this looks like. Number one on my checklist for tomorrow, right? Am I trading? Can I get below and hold below 28.9875? Odds are, unless we gap down and hold below today's low of the day, that once we trade below that 28.9875, we will find responsive buyers down there, but it'll let me know that the process has probably changed and we're going to somehow change character in trading, and I can start to look for what that character change is. So I have on my list, if we trade below 28.9875, expect there to be responsive buyers pretty quickly underneath there, probably somewhere right here in this 28.96 neighborhood. That would be a 20-point stretch lower. We're in a screaming bull market, and short of gapping below this level, I'm looking to be a responsive buyer first time into this location, right? Right underneath the low, I figure we'll trap and push back in. Number two, right? The high is also value area high. So I want to know, can we trade below value area high? And then value area low is sitting right here. And then these are the points of control, right? So what this does for me, if I'm a trader, is it makes some of my trading decisions really, really easy. And for guys that get anxious, and I know this, a lot of guys have this belief that they have to short into the high of a market, right? Or they have to short when the market's steamrolling up, and you don't. I'm telling you right now, you don't. I can use NQ as an example today. I'm going to flash over to the computer really quick, right? We had really clear, I wanted to be short NQ if and only if, I'm going to come all the way down here because I had it highlighted. Had it highlighted right here. You see I have this bar highlighted right here, and I knew I had to get underneath this bar in order to have a roll to the downside. I actually had a limit to sell right down here at 76.46, even 2 ticks underneath the swing low, right? And then my goal was, as long as it didn't get back above 76.59, right, from this location, I was looking to re-auction all of this area off to the left. So take a look. There's 2 different ways you're going to trade it. Some guy who thinks he's a superhero who's just going to step right in front of a straight up market, he gets cremated. Versus waiting to simply, it's the same concept of getting above or below your best buyer or seller. We're getting below our best buyer. That traps this group of sellers and sets us up for the shorts. And while given I might have been able to scalp in here, I'm looking for the bigger move out of this, and that bigger move can't start till we get underneath there. So that is what I was looking for today, and it cost me not a penny in that trade setup, right? So let's go back one more time and finish setting up tomorrow so we can go through here. So on ES, value area low, 29.09. Value area high is the high of the day, right? So if I wanted to short, there's a couple things that I would look for, right? Because we already know that we're pretty darn, gotta get rid of this, extended, right? So this becomes pretty simple and easy. If I can find, number one, let's say we open above, right? Number one, can I close back below 29.1750 in the first 30 minutes to an hour? If I cannot close and maintain underneath 29.1750, I will assume the push out for 20 to 25 points up from prior day's close at a minimum, which puts us at 29.35 to 29.40. Excuse me, 29, that's right, 35 to 29.40 as potential exhaustion to the upside. That's what I'm looking for on the upside if that occurs. Number two, if I do get above and I push back in, right, assuming I'm just not going to sweep this whole area, am I willing to short a backside test over here? Yes, if we get a big delta to lean against, back over here against this 29.1750, and I'm an aggressive trader, like really aggressive because you're shorting near the highs, that's where I'm looking, right? And then next, right, what do I really want to see if I want to be short? I'd like to see a consolidation underneath 29.09. And what does that set me up for? For a test down to 28.9875 and maybe 28.96. And that would be a 20 to 25 point rotation lower and would give us a support area. So there's other little areas within there that haven't been tested, but and we are due for a consolidation period. The important thing to remember is markets can work off overbought conditions trading sideways, right? So let's go through this again. We now have our layout for what we need to see for both longs and shorts. Tonight, 29.15 to 29.13 should be your support in Asia, and they should hold above that. If they don't hold above the 29.13, expect 29.09 area to get tested, and then finally expect the 29.05 area to get tested. But I would expect that they're going to hold this 29.15 to 29.13. NQ is super strong. I believe the Japanese markets are doing quite strongly. And last night, anyone who shorted in Asia just got a nasty, bitter taste in their mouth. I'm looking for longs, okay? Unless intraday during the U.S. session, there's price action that changes, and I need to change my outlook somehow. Okay, other than that, I expect the first test underneath here to get bought and first to close back in a balanced day if we test below prior day's low. You have a pretty good map now for what you're looking for. Please, 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 I posted this earlier to a team member, and I will read it again for everybody because I think it's really important. I said, and I was talking to Mari, who's in the room, and I said, Mari, this is all about following process and execution. So I said, if I took a trade, right? So we were talking, the trade that we were talking about, and I'm going to leave it off here and go home and enjoy my evening. Okay, we were talking about this long trade right over here. And I said, Mari, it's all about execution. So I said, so if I took the trade and lost, right? The number one question that I'm going to ask, in that process is, number one, if I lost, Was it on a trade that was in my menu of choices of trades I can take? This was, right? Second question I'm going to ask is, if so, was this part? So my win rate tends to float between 65%, 75%, with occasionally jumping really high, right? And so I said, so if I took a loss, was that part of the loss the 20 to 30% of the time trades fail? I want to do that because this trade's very profitable, and I want to make sure I take it every time it's presented to me, right? So the important thing is, had that trade stop, I don't want to skip it next time. I want to make sure I take it. I know it's going to stop some of the time, right? 3, if I didn't take the trade that was on process, what drove the decision? Was I scared? Did I think the market was going to roll over? Was I playing what I call fantasy market, where I imagine the market going all the way through and just blowing up and flying straight down and causing all kinds of havoc, right? Or was I trading my process? What was the reason that I skipped? My process says I take that trade. I should have taken that trade, and I did take that trade, right? And then if I took a trade that was off menu, sometimes, I think every trader does it, they kind of look at the market and go, oh, I think this time is different. I can just wing it. I'll take it here. What I want to do is I want to make sure that next time that I have a checklist that I review before placing the trade that I'm about to take. And in that, it should list out what the setup looks like, right? Now, even if I miss that trade the next time I'm going, because I went through the checklist first, that's all right. Eventually it'll become ingrained in your head, and you will understand exactly what your trade looks like, and you won't care about what the rest of the market's doing. And let me tell you why that is. You won't care because your equity curve will look something like, well, heck, it'll just be a squiggly line up, and it'll resemble something like this. Shallow dips, right? And that's what it should end up looking like over time, right? And that's why you won't care what the market does on any one particular day. That's what your equity curve will look like. And then lastly, I want to shout out to Randy, who did a great job today. And he said something, again, really important in the room. Wanted to share that with y'all. See if I can find it here really quick. Randy wrote, so Mari and he were having a conversation, and Randy wrote, because I'm a contrarian by nature. Simon's helped me get over that and look at the market more objectively. And everyone else is doing it is a bad reason to do anything, right? So, Randy, I want to thank you for that. The conversation in the room, in the Slack room, is really awesome. And so that's what we did today. We already know, or we have a pretty good idea of what we're going to be doing tomorrow, right? And therefore, we have lower stress levels and our adherences to process, because process pays us. Okay, everyone, guys. Hope you all had a great day. I didn't hook it up today because I didn't get my entry, but hopefully I get it hooked up tomorrow, and I will follow process. That's my commitment. And anyway, if you'd like to come visit us, learn how we do this in the room, or if you're looking for a mentor or a one-on-one coach, contact me, TRADERTOUGH at, excuse me, yeah, that's right, TRADERTOUGH@gmail.com. I'm now tired. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. I'm posting charts, and I'm out of here, guys. See you all tomorrow. Have a great night. Trade well.